All right, now I'm going to share my screen and we're going to talk about nutrition, one of my favorite things to talk about. So this is going to be great. You should all be able to see my screen, and I'm actually going to come off video so that we can actually concentrate on the images that you're going to see. And we're going to talk about nutrition, and mainly we're going to talk about digestion and why digestion is so important and what are the best foods for each dosha. What does it mean if you're tridoshic, and how are we supposed to eat anyway? There's a lot of emphasis on nutrition and a lot of emphasis on how we eat. So we're going to talk a lot about this in the next half hour or so. So Ayurveda says you are what you digest. And first off, when diet is wrong, medicine is of no use. And when diet is correct, medicine is of no need. And we know this. And when we look at nutrition, we pretty much say that we are what we digest. So Ayurveda sees eating as a ritual that not only nourishes the body, but nourishes the mind and soul too. So when we talk about nutrition, it's anything that can be taken in through the five senses. So it is said that most disease comes from wrong diet and the wrong habits. So in Ayurveda, food is our medicine, which means that if we eat correctly, then we're not going to need medicine. So food provides the building blocks to nourish and replenish our tissues, and that makes up our entire physical foundation. And it also feeds the mind. So in Ayurveda, how you eat is just as important as what you eat. So managing our lifestyle and our diet are really essential to treating imbalanced doshas and the key to disease prevention too. And just like the rest of Ayurveda, diet and nutrition are uniquely dependent upon your dosha. So as a bonus, you might be really happy to hear that calories, scales, and the food pyramid just do not exist in Ayurveda. And isn't that a nice thought? Instead, we focus on when to eat, how we feel after eating, and about balancing the 6 tastes. And we're going to talk more about that next month when we talk about the 6 tastes. So Ayurveda also emphasizes the importance of eating with peace and happiness too, not stressed out while we're eating and not multitasking when we're eating, which is what most of us do. So contrary to what people might think, eating Ayurvedically is not complex, it's not restrictive, it's actually quite freeing once you know what foods are best for your dosha. So it's nutrition that's customized just for you. Foods have qualities and actions on the body and the mind. And by learning the kinds of foods that work best with your dosha and listening to what you really need, then you're going to be spot on with your nutrition. If you honor your unique diet for yourself, then you'll know how much food is too much and too little based upon how you feel. And you'll also know when to honor cravings and when not to. But I want to talk about the difference between sort of Western nutrition and conventional nutrition and Ayurvedic nutrition. And there are distinct differences between our Western view of nutrition and the Ayurvedic viewpoint. And this chart sort of highlights it. And you can see why they don't relate to each other very much at all. And if this is your first experience delving into any Eastern science, then shifting to understand nutrition this way may feel a little foreign at first, but I want you to keep an open mind as you let it sink in a little bit, even if you're still getting over the fact that we don't have to count calories. So let's ask the question, why do we eat? And in sort of Western nutrition, we eat, well, we don't. We tend to totally complicate our food to the point where the idea of eating is no longer enjoyable and doesn't actually have much to do with actual food. We might eat food based on what we think are good foods while avoiding bad foods, or we might make choices based on what tastes overly good, ignoring the ingredients in the foods. We may live on one side of the pendulum, either hyper aware of every single thing we're eating or completely ignorant to the ingredients that we have in foods. We might eat out of habit. You know, you ever get stuck in a rut where cheese sandwiches, that's all you're eating for a while before you realize that you've not had a vegetable in a month? We also eat for social reasons. We often eat based on what the group is eating or what someone else is having. You know, have you ever been in a situation where even though you're full, if you're with somebody who has a sundae for dessert, and you often turn around and says, oh, and say sort of, I'll have one too. Maybe you're at a dinner party chatting away and you just don't realize that you have just eaten a dozen of those crab puffed appetizers. Now, physical appearance is probably the biggest driver of Western nutritional decisions. Fad diets have been around forever, and we buy it. We buy the books, we buy the recipes, we do what the celebrities do, we purchase the online subscriptions and fad diets, and they just don't work. Then we feel that we're a failure, so we try another one, and it's a bit like the laundry. We rinse and repeat, we rinse and repeat. And I'm actually talking more about why diets don't work on Cure Joy's live stream. It's on Facebook this Thursday at noon Eastern Standard Time. If you want to join me there, it'll be lovely to see you. So in our culture, we may also eat to fill emotional voids too. And sometimes we eat out of happiness, like a big feast. Sometimes out of loneliness, you know, when we go for the ice cream spoon. We eat out of stress. We often eat in a rush because we're too busy to sit down and take time for a meal. Our emotions can sometimes drive our decisions to eat rather than physical hunger. So we really need to strike a balance to gently nourish our emotional body without giving extra food to our physical bodies. So when we ask the question, why do we eat? In Ayurveda, we say we eat to take in prana. And prana is life energy given to us from nature, from the nourishment of food. If we don't have prana, then we won't function properly. We eat to nourish our tissues, to build our body of good things. We eat to nourish our mind so that we can make good decisions and adhere to right action. We eat for energy. We eat because we're hungry. We eat to live. We eat with thanks, and we eat with love too. So let's look at food focus. And in Western nutrition, or a Western diet really, we'll always measure how many calories we consume based upon our gender and how active we are. It's a number that counts food. So food is weighed and numbered, and so are we. So how are we supposed to enjoy food if we're so busy counting it? Ayurveda does not measure food in calories. That's right. There is absolutely no calories in Ayurveda. For those pitters raising an eyebrow, stay with me as we move through how foods are digested from an Ayurvedic viewpoint. It will make more sense. So I do have a calories story for you. In 2007, Monica was a personal trainer in San Francisco, and she was seeing a Western nutritionist. Monica wanted to know what she should be eating for her, and here's what she got. Because she was burning extra calories by teaching fitness classes each day, she was told that she should eat 5 or 6 meals a day, totaling around 2,000 calories. She was 5'4", by the way, and the plan just really didn't resonate with her, but she tried eating it. She was eating all the time to get in 5 or 6 more meals a day. She felt constantly full, she was bloated, she couldn't poop, she was totally plugged from her head to her toenails with food. She gained probably about 8 pounds in just a few weeks, and overall she felt really sluggish, she felt heavy, she felt sad. About a month later, she began Ayurveda school, and once she learned Ayurvedic nutrition, she never went back to counting calories. And to this day, she doesn't even think about them. Instead, she just listens to her body. So there is no need to count calories. Just bring awareness to your eating, and you'll get there. When we look at food balance, in Western nutrition, we balance we look at balancing through the 5 food groups. which are meat, dairy, grains, fruits, and vegetables. And it's said that we all need certain amounts for each one of these groups each day to stay balanced. Now, the problem Ayurveda has with the food pyramid is that not all people are the same, so their foods should not be the same either. There are a few things that Ayurveda does to balance foods, and I'll try and break it down into easy pieces, but instead of calories, Ayurveda focuses on the 6 tastes. And the 6 tastes are sweet, salty, sour, pungent, bitter, and astringent. And each one of those tastes has specific qualities like cold, light, hot, sharp, hot, sharp, and heavy, just like the doshas, in fact. And we're going to talk more about those tastes next month. I'm talking about the doshas. So without enough food, vatas are going to feel like they're going to pass out. Pittas without enough food are going to get angry and irritable, and kaphas are almost always happy, and they always have big reserves of mental and physical stamina, even without a lot of food. Now, looking at philosophy, so you are what you eat. In the Western nutrition, that's what we say, you are what you eat. And in many ways, that's true. If you eat crappy things, you're going to feel and look like crap. However, what this leaves out is the quality of digestion after you eat certain foods. So remember back in September when we had a group call and we talked about the ground rules of Ayurveda? Let's revisit that philosophy, you are what you digest. No matter how healthy the food is, if we cannot digest it, it's not going to be absorbed and used as fuel. The food's going to get stuck somewhere inside, or it's just going to go straight through the system. So for example, if eating spicy sausages gives us the runs in 30 minutes, well, clearly we're not digesting that food well. It's just going to go straight through. Our body is giving us a hint. It's saying, hey, I'm quickly getting rid of all this sausage because I can't digest it. Or, for example, if we're eating lots of raw vegetables and have not been able to eliminate in days, then we're not digesting that food well either because it's all stuck. So, get it? If we don't digest our food, then we can't use it. And if we can't use it, we don't get prana. If we don't get high quality prana, we don't get ojas, and ojas is vitality. So how in Ayurveda, well, let me go back. So Western nutrition does not really address how we eat. And I don't mean, we use a fork in the right or left hand. I mean, because mind, body, and spirit are connected, we need to eat with a peaceful and happy mind. So it's important that we don't eat when we're stressed. It's safe to say that eating on the go, in the car, while upset, at our desk, at work, all these are not health-promoting ways to eat, even if the food's totally perfect and balancing for us. One of my teachers told us a story, and he said, if we are starving to the point of getting lightheaded if we're a vata, or getting angry if we're a pitta, we would do more damage if we stopped at the store when we're that hungry to get all the stuff for a perfectly organic dinner, then go home, make the dinner and eat it. With the hours that passes, our digestive fire or our agni is going to get really, really low and our mind's going to be out of sorts. Our teacher said we would be better off, instead of doing all that to eat the most perfect foods, we'd be better off to pick up something to go, sit in the park and eat it with a happy mind, enjoy our surroundings, sort of really honor our hunger and eat with peace of mind. That's going to do our bodies more good than struggling to buy the very best foods. So does that mean you can blissfully eat a bag of Oreos? No, it doesn't. It means do the best you can with the tools you have without sort of wrecking everything. So it's not about eating the most perfectly organic, super free, farm raised, whatever. It's about eating healthily for you. So if we're stressed, if we're rushed, worried, depressed, sad, or lonely, then putting food into our body is one of the worst things we can do because the body's too busy tending to our emotions. When the body is too busy dealing with emotions, it's not focused on digestion. Our agni, our digestive fire is not strong at that point, and our food is going to remain undigested. Everything in our body has to be digested well for us to have the effects of that food. So let's look at some of the foods. Fiber, for example, is light and airy if you think about fiber. Pittas and kaphas will do great with fiber, and in fact, kaphas need it. Vatas will not do well with too much fiber. There's too much air, space, and fluffiness in it. And that's going to cause those vata bellies to bloat and cramp. Now, if any food makes you feel bad in some way, then stop eating it. Your body is telling you you can't digest it well, and it's not the best choice for you. I had a client once who said to me, you know what, I'm trying to eat loads and loads of eggplant, and I just can't do it. I'm really struggling. And I said to her, why are you eating eggplant? And she goes, well, it's on my good foods list. And it's like, okay, well, just because it's on your good foods list doesn't mean that it's the right food for you. So eat what feels like it's the right food for you. So that brings us to what is the right food for you? What should the doshas eat? So let's look at vata then. So vata is made of air and space. And our vata friends are cold, dry, rough, light, and mobile. These are all the qualities of vata. So the foods they eat need to be the opposite of that of those qualities. So the opposite of those qualities is warm, moist, smooth, heavy, and grounding. Because vatas have a lot of air and space in them, some of the biggest digestive complaints they have are gas, bloating, and constipation. They're so light in the body that if food isn't heavy enough to stay in their digestive tract, then it's going to create that gas and bloating. So vatas need foods that are heavy to ground their mind, to build and nourish their bodies too, and pull the food down and out. And that's why vatas need a good amount of oils and food that has a lot of moisture or water content in it. So moist and heavy foods will move downward so that vata can digest them nicely. So if a vata eats popcorn and pretzels all the time, then those foods, which are really dry and light, will just stay dry and light in their guts too. And then also vatas won't ever feel satisfied with their food. They'll just keep on eating. So despite vatas wanting to eat healthy and light, vatas cannot digest salads or raw vegetables well. They'll instantly feel bloated. They'll wonder why, because they're eating so healthy. They'll be far better off having a bowl of rice with ghee or oatmeal with almond butter. Now, it is not uncommon, I see it a lot, for vatas to go crazy with salads. Vatas will likely be the dosha most vocal and fearful about gaining weight and watching what they eat. And you know what's really strange is that it's naturally hard for a vata to gain weight. So what happens is they give their bodies too much stress with all these sort of rough foods. They end up with eating a lot of salads. They're going to end up constipated, moody. They're constantly snacking because the body gives them cravings for carbs, for heavy foods. They end up underweight and they end up usually sick too. So to stay satiated and balanced, vatas need to eat 3 to 4 square meals a day. Naturally, vatas will want to graze all day, but constant snacking is going to increase that movement quality, that air quality in their digestion. And that's because the digestive system is constantly working, and therefore it's going to increase that vata energy even more. So movement increases movement. So that air quality is going to increase more of that air quality, which means they're going to be more munchy, they're going to be more gassy, and they're going to be more bloated. Let's look at our pitta friends. So our pittas are hot, sharp, slightly oily, smooth, light, and mobile. These are just the qualities of pitta. So pittas then need to favor cooling, mild, less oily, grounding, and calming foods. Excuse me while I stop for a slurch of my lemon tea. So pittas will tend to run hot because they have the fire element in them. They do have an advantage of digesting food really well. Their digestive fire is really strong. They have a pretty robust metabolism. They're actually quite the opposite of a vata, and they can sometimes digest too quickly though and too hotly. Because of that, pittas need to have warm foods, but definitely not super spicy or acidic. That extra heat hyper increases their agni, their digestive fire. So pittas should favor protein, fresh fruits and veggies with healthy and clean carbs, you know, a pretty well-rounded plate actually. Fruits and veggies provide a sweet coolness that soothes pittas, while carbs will satisfy their intense hunger. Pittas also need to add protein, whether from plants or animals, that doesn't mind, but they are the dosha that can digest meat the best out of all of the doshas. And the best choice of meat for pitta is actually fish. Red meat, it's more heating than fish or chicken, which is why some pittas tend to get heartburn after they've had their big steak dinner. Now pittas, they should eat 3 square meals a day, but they might need a snack in the morning or at 10 o'clock and possibly again around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The danger for pittas is that their agni, their digestive fire, can increase to a level that might be too high. When that happens, they will overeat because they're constantly hungry, and then they'll gain weight. So just because their fire is strong doesn't mean that they need lots of extra food. So choosing the right foods are going to be really important for pittas. You'll often see a pitta chugging cold water. They're the ones that are carrying a water bottle with them everywhere because they're constantly thirsty, and that's because their heat that they have, that internal heat, is going to burn off water through sweat, through urination, and just from working so hard. So they tend to be really thirsty to replenish their water supply constantly. And then our kapha friends, they are cold, wet, heavy, and static, and they need foods that are warm, dry, light, and well spiced to stay balanced. So kaphas are naturally steady and heavy. They have a low but consistent agni or digestive fire, and their diet really should be largely vegetarian. They should favor warm vegetable dishes with light warm grains like quinoa, basmati rice. Barley is really good for them because it's drying. They also do well with high fiber fruits like apples or pears, but they really need to avoid sweet and heavy fruits like bananas, coconuts, avocados. Kaphas are already oily, so the foods they choose should be dry. If not, then kaphas are going to feel really heavy and sort of congested as well. Kaphas don't need a lot of food. I recommend kaphas skip dinner at least once a week. And what this does is this gives their agni or their digestive fire a chance to catch up and digest any old food stuff. Some of the worst things a kapha can do is eat a cold, wet breakfast, like cereal, and then eat a late dinner, because what happens is these habits work against their agni, their digestive fire, and their agni is not strong enough for either of these as a habit, and over time will definitely cause a kapha imbalance. Now, I often get asked the question, well, that's all fine, but I'm 2 doshas, so what do I eat? Well, when our prakriti or our metabolic type is 2 doshas, we will find that the qualities are mostly opposite. In that case, we eat in harmony with the seasons and pay attention to how we feel when we eat certain foods. Now, there's also likely to be a common thread between the dosha qualities. Are they both warm? Are they both cool? For example, if you're kapha vata, kaphas and vatas are both cold. That means you will always need warm foods. And then once we know that, what is that common connection, then we can balance that quality consistently. Balancing nutrition with the seasons, what that really means is that a pitta in summer will always choose cooling foods while avoiding things like spicy, meaty dishes with a carafe of red wine. A kapha in spring will always choose light, dry, warm foods, avoiding things like fettuccine alfredo. A vata, on the other hand, in fall and winter, would choose grounding, warm foods. So, for example, they would not, in the middle of winter, have a crispy salad with ice cream for dessert. It is a little trial and error, but here's the thing. If we screw up and eat the wrong foods, our body is going to tell us we're just going to feel bad. So that's great. That means you learned. Chalk it up to the food experience and chalk it up to part of the journey to getting to know yourself, and then begin sort of listening to the choices that your body's making that make you feel great. And before you know it, you are going to be an expert at your own nutrition. So eating is going to become such a great journey for you. Your awareness is going to expand as you start paying attention to how the foods feel in your body. It's going to take you to a different way of thinking about food. Once you've given yourself permission to let go of what everybody else says you should be eating, and instead just concentrate on eating what makes you feel really good. As you transition into this sense of, I'm just going to eat what makes me feel good, that process is going to feel a little bit ambiguous because it's not normally how we're used to thinking. But I don't want you to overthink it because everybody is different. Without calories or portion control as a guide, it's going to be a little bit tough for you to know what is right for me. But if you eat 3 times a day, have a snack when your body calls for it, that's a really good start. You are the best gauge on how foods make you feel. So just start paying attention. Now, everybody is different, but you kind of know that by now. You're working in a program with me, you know that everybody is different. So vatas have varied digestion, for example. Kaphas have slow but steady digestion, and pittas have a really strong digestion. Not all foods are good for all people, even if they are organic, fair trade, and in season. So it is important to make sure the foods you eat balance the qualities of your particular dosha. There are so many times when people will say to me, but I eat organic foods, I should be really healthy. And it's a hard concept to get across, but are you eating the foods that are right for you? So let's explore then a lesson in using the best ingredients to make unique meals. Let's talk about our vata friends. Imagine we're going to make a meal. Let's take some baby spinach, some arugula, radishes, green onions, carrots, shredded Brussels sprouts, some broccoli and cauliflower. Toss it all together and create a great big vegetable salad. With all these delicious organic vegetables straight from the farmer's market, how could it not be a good meal? Now, let's invite your vata friend over for lunch. She's thin, gets chilly easily, talks a hell of a lot, and bundles in layers. She wears fuzzy socks even when it's warm outside. She's always quite vocal in her complaints about her digestive problems, including frequent bloating, frequent gassiness. So she likes to eat as healthy as possible. Plus, she does not want to gain weight. You thought this would be the perfect meal because there's nothing healthier than all those veggies. For a Vata, however, this salad would be one of the worst things they can eat. Vata is already cold, dry, light. So adding these cold, dry, light foods are going to make her really uncomfortable and bloated in 30 minutes or less. This salad is totally raw, so the element of fire has not been introduced, which makes the body's digestive fire much harder to do. Vatas already have weak or variable digestive fire, so this food will sit in a Vata's gut and cause trouble. When I say cause trouble, that means bloating and cramping. So let's do another one. Pretend it's summer and you pick up some tomatoes, red peppers, fresh garlic at the farmer's market. Tomatoes, peppers, and garlic are heating foods. Your witty, smart pitta friend who has red hair, freckles, bright blue eyes, and fair pinkish skin is coming over for dinner. Using your tomatoes, peppers, and garlic, you serve her a lovely bowl of gazpacho and bread served up with some red sangria. And what better place to eat than on your back deck in the hot sunshine? After eating and chatting, you soon notice your pitta friend has blotchy red skin on her neck and chest, her freckles are multiplying, and you notice her skin is looking pretty red, even though you've only been outside for about 20 minutes. She might experience some heartburn, but she probably won't mention it. So even though the foods are fresh and organic, the qualities of the tomatoes, peppers, garlic, and alcohol are all way too heating for this poor pitta girl who now has a little inferno going on inside her body. Let's do one more for kaphas. So your kapha friend is coming over for breakfast before you two enjoy, let's say, a day of shopping. You know that she doesn't eat breakfast because she's not usually hungry in the morning. But to be hospitable, because she always is, you whip up an easy yogurt parfait. You have fresh berries and some full-fat Greek yogurt because Kerry told you not to eat low-fat anything, and granola, all from the farmer's market. You decide to layer up the goods in the glass, first the granola on the bottom, then the berry mixture, then some yogurt, and you repeat twice over. It's a glorious striped beauty of health, and it looks beautiful, doesn't it? Your kapha friend is sure to smile with joy at your pretty creation of what you've made this morning. So, what do you think about this breakfast? Good for kaphas? This breakfast is actually not good for anyone, but it's especially not good for kaphas. They're going to have a hard time with it. Yogurt increases kapha. Berries are sour, which increases kapha. Granola is too oily, nutty, and heavy for kaphas. The parfait is also cold. That means it's going to dampen or extinguish that kapha's already weak agni or digestive fire. And go back to your incompatible foods. Fruit and dairy are incompatible. What that means is when they mix in our bellies, that's actually going to cause fermentation. So again, just because the foods are organic and natural doesn't mean they suit all people all of the time. Absolutely not the case. Now, if you are a pitta, and you eat a tomato or pepper, it's not going to kill you, but you might notice problems if you have them regularly. So overall, have less of those foods. Take a broader view of your diet, favoring the foods that balance you best. So for Vatas, cold, dry, light foods are not good. So that's salad. Salads are not good for them. Pittas, hot, sharp, spicy foods are not great. And kaphas, cold, heavy, wet foods such as yogurt is not good for them at all. So let's look at some nutritional guidelines then. It is important to eat according to your dosha. Pretty sure we've got this one by now. So a customized approach to eating is exactly what we need to stay balanced. If you're heavy, eat light. If you're cold, eat warm. If you are light, eat heavy. If you're hot, avoid spicy. So eating meals that balance your unique combination is crucial. Also important to have a small breakfast, big lunch, and a small dinner. Remembering the story of Agni when we did our call about our digestive fire, we should eat according to where the sun is. So have a small breakfast to kindle Agni in the morning, a larger lunch to satiate Agni at lunchtime, and then a smaller dinner as Agni winds down. So remember, when the sun sets, the entire body starts slowing down. Just taking a slurp of my tea again. Also, eat what's in season. So seasonal vegetables and fruits come straight from the rain, the soil, and the sun, and they pop up at just the right time of year, perfect for us in season. Now, because nature is smarter than we are, don't take it personally, we should favor foods in season rather than out of season. Eating watermelon in Wisconsin on Christmas is an example of an out-of-season food, and it's not going to be the greatest choice. In addition to seasonal balance, eating foods that are close to the source, close to the earth, to the water, to the sun, are easier for us to digest and process. By eating foods that are closer to the source of nature means you're going to take in more life energy, because that food comes directly from the 5 elements. If you look at something like Velveeta cheese, I don't know that that's close to any life force at all, and certainly not close to any source that makes it easy for us to digest and assimilate that food. Avoid stale, canned, or processed food. Now, stale foods are past their prime, so you just need to toss them. There's no prana in that food, and your body deserves the best you can give it. Canned foods have actually had the life sucked out of them. That's why they can last a long time. Any food that can last a long time is a good indication that that food is really low in prana. Processed foods are along the same lines. These foods may have been created from nature, but they've been modified by man-made chemicals. And a good rule of thumb is, if you can't pronounce and identify the ingredients on the label, don't buy or eat it. Lifeless food equals lifeless nutrition. That's going to equal lifeless you. Now, a big one, avoid iced or very cold water, especially with meals. And I often get asked about this one. Cold water weakens or extinguishes Agni. That's your digestive fire, remember. And what is our goal? Our goal is to build and keep our Agni strong, our digestive fire strong. Plus, our bodies are warm, so anything too cold will be a shock to the system. And that shock is going to make channels constrict. It's going to reduce flow, and it's going to cool Agni. Avoid drinking a bunch of water before or after meals. Sipping a glass of water with your meals is perfect. That's great. But putting in too much water at mealtime, that's going to just dampen that digestive fire just when you need it the most. Our bodies need the right measure of food and water to mix well. Not enough water, and it won't be liquefied enough to digest. Kind of like an overstuffed washing machine with soap but no water. And eat only when you have real hunger and at the right time. As you know, our Western culture has us eating for a variety of reasons, and some of them have nothing to do with physical hunger. So if you are not hungry, it's not only okay, but it is sometimes necessary to skip a meal. Nothing terrible is going to happen to you if you skip a meal. And then we need to clear any kind of burping too. Food burps, those burps are a sign that your body is not done digesting. If you are still burping up your last meal, do not eat again until you don't have any burping at all. And we also need to focus on our food. Our meal should have our undivided attention while we chew, we taste, and we appreciate our food. What we tend to do is we mindlessly munch and snack, often as a daily habit. We walk around the office with snacks in hand, we grab a cookie near the printer, we eat at our desk, we might come home and run straight to the cupboard to grab something before dinner because we're so starving. I'm often guilty of that. And before we know it, we have no idea how much food we have put in our bodies. Putting our mind in our eating habits will help us realize our real hunger and real fullness. And it's going to give us a new appreciation of eating as a ritual, not just as something else to check off on our list of to-do things for that day. Do not multitask and eat. We are going to confuse the heck out of our body if we are trying to do a few other things and gulp down food at the same time. The mind's going to be doing one thing. The body's going to be trying to digest what you're eating, but the body will not digest well without the mind telling it what to do. So as soon as we start doing something else with our body, our mind leaves the digestive system to finish accomplishing whatever else that we're working on. And the result is, yep, you guessed it, old food hanging out and not digesting well. And that's going to build into digestive toxins. Another great one to do, this is just a really good nutritional guideline. Feed someone else before feeding yourself. So serve your friends and your family first. Even if it's your dog, serve your dog first. There's a certain generosity, a certain grace and sharing involved in eating. So as a practice, just make sure everybody at the table is content and has what they need before feeding yourself. There's just a certain sense of satisfaction and gratitude that you'll have about that. And lastly, but most importantly, eat in a happy mood. That's not so easy, but I want you to be really mindful and think about eating in a happy mood with a peaceful mind too. If we're stressed, upset, angry, sad, then our body will be focused on trying to nurture our mood and the food just won't get digested properly. And then we'll have stomachache, we'll have some armor or digestive toxins to go along with our already sort of bad feelings as well. And as we sort of finish off, I want you to think about you are not what you eat, although that is very much the Western way of thinking. But in Ayurveda, we say you are what you can digest, because if you cannot digest your food well, then it doesn't matter how great that food is. So the emphasis is on how we digest our food, not just on what we actually eat. So I want to remind you that we'll go to questions in just a few minutes. If you have any questions for me, that we will be doing these group calls on the 28th of each month. And our next one next month is going to be on the 6 tastes and what they all mean and why it's so important to get those 6 tastes into our meal each time and the benefits of that. So I'd like to open it up to any questions that anybody may have.
Hey Carrie, it's Tracy Calhoun.
Yes, Tracy.
Hey, quick question on if jumping back to the kapha food example with the yogurt and the granola.
Mm-hmm.
How could we assimilate that for a vata and a pitta using the same meal?
I'm not sure I understand the question. How can you make that a pitta-friendly meal?
Yeah, so how would, I mean, so we know that's not good for kapha for the reasons stated.
Mm-hmm.
But how would a vata, how would a vata digest that? How would a pitta digest that?
So this is when we look at qualities. So that's a great question, Tracy. So if you think about the qualities of yogurt, it's heavy, cold, sticky, dense, And then you think about the qualities of vata. So qualities are light. So the heaviness of a yogurt would be good. But yogurt's cold. Vatas are already cold. So it's going to add to that coldness that they feel, where they've always got cold hands and feet. That's probably, so what you find with vatas is they can do yogurt, but they have to do diluted yogurt with a lot of digestive spices.
Okay.
So they can do it. So you would add things like some cinnamon, you would add maybe some cardamom. You could make it a more savory yogurt and add some cumin and coriander. And these are great digestive spices. It's going to be very hard to digest. In fact, yogurt is not really indicated for anybody.
Okay. Okay.
Just too heavy a meal to digest. The only way you can do it is if you made your own yogurt. That makes it easily digestible. It's nothing like you get in the store. And then if you add some digestive spices to it as well, and then that will make it more digestible. You'd be better off for a vata making like a kefir drink, which really is sort of a very light yogurt, and it's more a probiotic drink, and pittas can do well with that. Pittas could probably digest yogurt better than anybody.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? That's a great question. Then it looks like that might be the only question. If you have any more, feel free to email me. I have no problems with that. There's often lots of questions that come up, especially around food. So I want to thank you for being on the call with me tonight. I really appreciate it. I will record this and send it out. It's being recorded. I will send it out to you as well tomorrow. And hopefully I will see you again on the 28th of next month, when we will talk about the 6 tastes and why they're so important. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it.